I am actively momming, so if I have to step away or we have a friend join us, be advised.
We may have a furry friend in my camera. I hope that the furry friend is not.
Hi, friend.
We decided to come together for momming in the age of COVID because, one, there's so much happening right now in the world. We had a lot of changes, a lot of things moving constantly every day. And being a mom, especially moms of color, may have presented some more challenges. And we may also see some different types of triumphs in the home. And so we wanted to give a space to talk about that, resources, tools, practices, and just connect with one another. So we are here to talk about momming in the age of COVID. My name is Ateira Griffin. I'm CEO and founder of Bond, Building Our Nation's Daughters, and we support single mothers and daughters on positive relationship building and economic mobility. And so we've had a chance to work with our community on a few things, and we are joined on the panel right now with two panelists, and I'll toss it over to Anna to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anna Rodney. I'm the Executive Director of Mom Cares, which is a doula support program that supports specifically Black women with a high-risk birth experience and or a birth experience that ended their child in the NICU. We provide emotional support, advocacy in the hospitals, and currently, as we are shifting to serve families in our current reality, we are connecting moms to small financial supports, as well as resources in the community and baby care essentials. We've been in existence since 2017 and have been serving Baltimore City proudly since then.
Awesome.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Burgundi Allison. I work in the world of philanthropy, but I'm also an author. I have a guided journal for women called Fishbones and Breadcrumbs, which is a tool for women who are looking to open themselves to healing through deepening their relationship with God. And I also host a podcast called Golds, Girls, and God that you can find on Spotify. And I'm a mom of two, a 10 and 3-year-old little women. So just here to kind of soothe my own self in this time in the age of COVID and glean from wisdom of other women.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention my person. I'm sorry. He's like off. I'm like, oh, time to myself. But I do have a little boy who is the assistant director of everything, I call him.
We're going to have my mom join the screen. So, Mom, we just did introductions. Do you want to introduce yourself as someone other than my mother? So while she's working on her sound, my mom's name is Alisa Williams, and she is lead counselor of Bond, Building Our Nation's Daughters, and she is my mother. She raised two grown children. I'm one of them. And I wanted her to be here today to talk about her ability and her perspective to navigate the age of COVID with two adults that she raised. So that will be a part of our discussion today. Okay. All right. So for our first question, I would love to just hear from you all first, like what steps, practices, or ways of thinking did you implement to adjust for yourself and for your family once this age of COVID really started to unfold?
So for me, I run a organization that is heavily a heavy participant in the healthcare system. We're often in the hospitals. I'm also a single mom of a special needs child that has significant health issues, specifically around breathing and his lungs. And so we also, Mom Cares also is dependent on interns and volunteers for a lot of the work that we do right now. So when things started to move forward, I made the decision to talk to our partners and let our partners know that we were going to be moving to a virtual platform before that became a thing, before we all kind of made that shift. And I actually had a little bit of guilt about it at the beginning, because I was like, does this mean that I am abandoning our moms? What does this mean? But when thinking about the fact that I do run an organization and I am responsible for other people's well-being when they are serving mom cares and on our behalf, I feel like I made the right decision. And so with that decision, I took a week to just adjust. I was in awe of people who were like, oh, we're in the house now. Like, things are popping off. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go live. And I was just like, I need to just ground and get myself together and be in the house and just reassure myself and my son and take a mental inventory of the things that I needed to be able to move forward before I started to kind of jump out there as a service to others and continuing the work. So I definitely took a significant pause within that first week. I allowed myself to sleep in. I allowed myself to day drink. I allowed myself to do all the things that my anxiety was asking me to do. And I just sat with those emotions and allowed them to flow until I was ready to regain my wits about me.
Yeah. That's good.
I think in my house, it was a total departure from what was normal and allowing that to be okay. So we're on the run a lot. We're very rarely home. So my 10-year-old dances like 6 days a week. My baby girl has her own activities. I have 9 million things going on. Dad has 9 million things going on. So we actually are passing one another a lot. And we're very regimented. We've got to be here at this time, here at this time. And so the way of thinking that we adopted was just to not and to be okay with not. And so for the first 2 weeks, actually, we were just in the house together. I think both of my children kind of thought they were on spring or summer break, and I allowed them that. And it was hard because we are very used to doing. But my way was, if I can ease them into not doing, it'll make the transition easier. Because we have to actually become accustomed to being in this house together.
Oh, wow.
And so it was just allowing things to come undone and making it safe for things to come undone so that when we have to put them back together differently, that's not as scary. And so I think this is week 3 that we've been home. This is the first time that we've had a pretty loose schedule. Like, we're going to do this at this time and this at this time. And I'm still slow walking it so that it doesn't kind of just jolt the whole house. And so for us, it's just been being safe, not doing.
Awesome. Like, we had to adjust slowly. Like, it was a gradual adjustment. And even thinking about working with the moms in Bond, building our daughters, and working with moms in other spaces, and other organizations that we support with their parent engagement, one of the main pieces of advice I heard was not trying to create this very structured schedule right away and allowing time to process what was actually happening. I know we focus on working with middle school and high school kids. And so thinking about the fact that this is normally a very social time for them, and how do you support your child in still being able to connect socially, but also starting to create ways and traditions to connect socially within your family, but in an organic way, and recognizing that this is different. This is new. This is a struggle in some spaces. And so we have to adapt, but allowing the space to process our emotions and our thoughts is so important. And I'm glad that you both kind of raised that up. Like, look, we got to take a break real quick. Let me get my mind together. I think that's so important.
Absolutely.
And so thinking about that, like, I know one of the main questions that a lot of folks want to hear is like, how are you managing working from home with your children or your child? And what's been working? What's the challenge? Like, let's keep it very, very real here, 100. And can you share like what your best and your not so great days have looked like so far?
So for me, the first thing was to acknowledge that I am not a stay-at-home mom for many reasons. And one of them is that I don't have the temperament to be a stay-at-home mom. Like I'm not a homeschool educator. I am not the mom that loves to play all day with my 3-year-old. Like, and I had to be okay with that. Like, be honest with myself. This is not me for many, many reasons. Like, I work because I have to, but I also work because I choose to. Because like that's the me that I find value and honor in, the me that is ambitious and has a career. And be okay with that. And so to not oppress upon myself unrealistic expectations for what I can and cannot do. So that was like A1 best practice. Be real with yourself about who you are and your bandwidth and capacity as a woman and as a mother. And so accepting that was like, okay, well, what can you do within this space? Because you have 2 children and they have to be nurtured, but they also have to be educated. And they also have to be, you also have to create for them a safe enough space so that they can continue to thrive in their studies and continue to thrive in their growth. So what within that kind of structure, that very loose confine, what can you do? And so like what's been working for me is prioritizing mothering over my work. I have to say, though, I am extremely blessed and privileged to have an employer that allows me to do that, that has been explicit about the fact that we know you can't do everything. And so we honor you doing family first. And so I have to put that out there because that's not true for everyone. And so I've been able to lean more into mothering than working in most instances. I will say that I'm the kind of mom, though, that understands that my children run things. You know, we tend to say, and I think Black people in the Black community, we kind of frown upon the fact that children do run things. They change everything. And so culturally, it's a departure when you allow that to be true. And so, like, I am not the mom that drags my child to the store and then is yelling at her for touching stuff. She's 3. She's going to touch things. So instead, I just don't take her to the store, right? I'm that mom. I'm her. I'm just going to be real and not create painful situations for myself or my child. And so I structure my day around them. What I've learned about my 3-year-old is she learns better with me in the evening. And so her days are more consumed with play. So creating activities for her to do during the day. My 10-year-old is pretty, she's self-motivated and she can self-regulate. So for her, she creates her own schedule. She can do it on her own. But for the 3-year-old, I learned the morning and daytime is not the time she wants to do letters and numbers. She does that better in the evening, which alleviates a lot of stress for me because my work happens during the day. And so I can set her up to play. She can do stuff on the tablet. And usually she can hold her attention long enough for me to get through a call. When it looks not so great, it's actually not when they're not cooperating. It's when I don't have enough of what I need to be able to set and create an environment for them to be okay. So if I'm particularly stressed or if I'm just not with it, then it's going to be a complete chaotic moment from the time we wake up to the time. And it's not them, it's really me. And I had to acknowledge that, you know what? You're not doing anything differently today than you did yesterday. Mommy is in a space where none of this is conducive to me creating safe space for you. And so I think that like one place that we should be coming to is self-regulating ourselves and recognizing that a lot of times when we have those bad days, it's really less about them and it's more about where we are and our bandwidth to kind of take on, assume certain roles and to create spaces where everyone can kind of be who they are and things can get done. So for me, it's really about me and where I am in any given space as to whether or not a day goes well enough. But I would say that for me, best practice is not expecting more of myself than I know I can do and what I can handle.
When I think about parenting, I think about parenting and also running a business. I think about what they tell you on the plane, where it's like, if there's an emergency and the oxygen drops, you put the mask on your face first, and then you put it on your child, and then if there's something else to do outside of those two things, then you can do that. Mm-hmm. And so I really have had to learn to govern myself in that way, because I'm very self-sacrificing. I feel like if I'm not I'm a runner, if I'm not doing 10 million things, if I'm not out in these streets, like doing all of the things, being superwoman, then I have failed. And I think that me and Burgundy kind of were talking about this the other day. That is the downfall of the idea of Black girl magic, and like the fact that we are super, capable of doing all of the things all the time. And so when COVID happened, I was desperately exhausted. I have been working 7 days a week since the beginning of this year. My house had fallen into disarray. I was just having a really hard time with making sure that everything that needed to be done got done. And my clients were taken care of. My business was taken care of, but I was not being taken care of. Right. And I was leaning very much on the support to my community to help take care of Aiden. So for me, and when Aiden was born, I had no intention of going back to work. And I did have dreams of homeschooling. I have since learned that homeschooling might not be my calling. I thought because I was an educator, I would be able to do it. No longer an educator in that capacity. And I've had to do a lot of forgiving myself. And not putting these unrealistic expectations. I think what this has done for me has really made me realize how high a standard and how high a bar people are holding each other to in business and, in community, just in general. Like, we are expecting you to work 40 to 60 hours a week and still come home and still be at drum class and dance class and co-parenting and not going crazy and being able to go to the spa and going to brunch and drinking enough water and exercising. And so this time has really, really forced myself, I'm sure everybody else, to really prioritize what needs to happen in a day. Yeah. And so, sometimes Aiden is running around right now. He don't have no pants on. He took his pants off. He woke up this morning and we left it. We're in the house, so that's not a thing.
Let me interject there real quick, Anna, because we had a question in the chat that is specifically for that. And it's, did you stick with your child or your children's regular bedtime routine, like specifically the time?
No, not at all. So the funny thing is, for me, so about 2 or 3 weeks before COVID happened, me and Aiden have a special song that I've been singing since I was pregnant with him. And all of a sudden, he started wanting to hear that song at night. Maybe, like I said, like 3 weeks before COVID hit. And I do believe that kids are more sensitive than adults. I feel like he needed that extra reassurance. And so at night, no matter what time it is, if it's 8:30, if it's 9 o'clock, if it's 11:30, like whatever time it is, we do listen to that song because it soothes him. And there does need to, I'm finding that there does need to be some type of normalcy for him to reach to. So we do listen to our music at night, and we do read a book at night. But that might happen at 8. Like I said, it might happen at 7:30. It might happen at 11:30.
I think one of the beautiful things that's happening under these circumstances is, like, I always note that childhood is one of the markers of privilege for me. I think what's happening in these moments where we're able to take off that structure is those same things can now happen for our children in our homes. Is that now they can be children at home and not held to these very strict and tight schedules that happen at school, that happen as a result of our own work schedules. Now they can be who they are, and it can spill out into our homes and into the way we connect with them. And I think that if we can take that perspective, it's less important that they stay connected to schedules. It's more important that they stay connected to who they are as children and what this time in their lives really means.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And Mom, we can hear you.
You can hear me now. Great. Great. And just piggybacking off of that, I can, because I have been working with kindergarten children and just thinking about going back over the times when we've had severe storms or any type of time when we were home for long periods of time when my children were younger with snowstorms and things that are like hurricanes. You have to let them be kids. You let them. That's because that's the only way they're going to be able to deal with it. If you keep trying to have regimen and everything, and life doesn't have that normalcy where you're not going outside as much as you were. You're not going into stores differently. People look differently. They're coming out with masks on. They're wearing gloves. And, a lot of kids, the looks on their faces are confused. So, sometimes you have to keep them at home and explain to them why they're home more often. But let them have fun. Be kids and enjoy them while you're there with them. It's all for a reason right this minute. Everybody's got to have that connectivity. And this is families being able to connect better now and to build each other up where we were becoming distant. Everybody gets to set the phones down and enjoy each other.
That's a great point, Mom. Yeah. Go ahead, Anna.
I was going to say, I think also I would like to also acknowledge that there is a level of privilege for us to be able to do that. Yeah. Because our reality is not everybody's reality right now. And I honor that.
I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat, and I think you touched on it just for a minute, Anna, when you said like there's a privilege in being able to say like we are at home with our kids and like they're able to be kids around us and we're able to structure their day. But there are a lot of moms out there who have to go to work, who are essential employees, who may work in healthcare, who may be on the front lines as first responders, who may even be watching other people's children. If they work with some of the centers that have been utilized, I know in Baltimore, it's the YMCA for child care. And so like there is also a specific challenge that comes with that because one, yes, we are responsible in our community and we have great folks who have chosen these occupations and are serving in a way that allows some of us to stay home because we have that ability, and that also supporting us moving forward through COVID and preventing more infections. But also them being on the front lines like this allows other kids to get the time that they may need to be around other peers, to be in a safe space while their parent is at work. And so thinking about how they manage that, what words of advice or like what spaces, the community, or what ways to center themselves in having to deal with leaving the house, leaving their child maybe at home or with another family member or at a daycare center, and then coming back to the home. Like, is there anything that we can say to them in helping one with self-care? Let's talk about that first. And then there's a second question that I'll bring up after we talk about the self-care aspect.
I think that when with parents who have to leave the home, it is hard to do that because they have to take them to other people and rely on them and trust them with their children and trust it with them with the other children. But they also get that benefit of being able to be around their peers and everything, just like you were saying. But also we have to remember that we have technology. So we can use drop-ins, phone drop-ins, just use those drop-ins. Let the child FaceTime their parents, It helps them, also helps the child, but it also helps the parent to make it through those hard times. I have some friends who are nurses and they do drop-ins on the line. They call at specific times every day. And if they can't get those moments, if it's something that's rushed and they can't get those moments, they make sure that they send a message at some point and they still get that drop-in. They also, it's communication. Even the smallest of children, mommy will call you when she can. Daddy will contact you. Daddy will see you when she can. You're seeing people having to separate themselves from their children because maybe they're right in the forefront. They're right there. Either they're driving trucks, delivering stuff, or they are out there being a nurse or in the nursing homes working with people or in the emergency rooms. They got to take that. And I recommend that people try to take that break, take that minute, drop away. If you're running to the restroom, take that few minutes connect with your base.
Mm-hmm.
Your base is what's going to keep you stable. Your base is what's going to help you relieve the anxiety and the stress that we're all feeling it. But I really I have talked to some friends who are right out there, and they say they take those times.
It's also important, like, because you started to mention this de-stressing piece, and I know like everybody processes stress in a different way. Some people are verbal processors, some people are silent processors, some people need to write things out. So finding out what is that thing that you need to do for yourself to help you be centered as mom, even sometimes before you come back into the house with your child, so that you're ready to talk to your child or interact with your child in that way, and you're ready to receive all the excitement that they may have, or sadness that they may have, or just confusion about what's happening in the day. I think is one thing. And then another thing is finding, you mentioned it slightly, but I want to make sure it's reiterated, like finding touch points along the way, within the day, within the week, where you literally check in.
Yes.
So what we're talking about is self-check-in, and then check-in with you and your child or your family.
Yes.
So self-check-in, how am I feeling? How am I doing? What am I thinking? What's causing me stress or distress, and what's causing me distress or bad stress? And then checking with my child, like, how are you? Who are you today? What would you use to describe who you are today? What is the thing that's top of mind? What brought you joy? What brought you confusion or sadness? Asking those questions, because communicating like that can help open those lines so that you can continue to connect as we continue to go through this process, because it's a long one. And I think the last thing I would say is having that actual conversation where you explain the why. I remember when I was a child, and one thing, Mom, that I think you did wonderfully well was always explain the why to me in a way I could understand it. It wasn't like me saying, I don't want to do this, and you saying, well, this is why. It was more like, this is why this is happening. This is how we're going to move through it. And this is the role or the part you play in helping us be successful in moving through it. So also helping the child feel like, okay, I have a part in this where I'm your child, but I have a part of a role to play in this thing, can be helpful too.
Yes.
I'd love to
I would also like to add, first and foremost, to those that are watching that are on the front lines, like, thank you. Whether you're at a grocery store, whether you're at a restaurant, whether you are in a healthcare system, taking at a nursing home, wherever you are, if you have to get up and leave your home and leave your family and leave your safety every day for us, thank you. I think that's important to hear and to receive, because it's easy to not feel that throughout the day.
I do want to raise up this next piece, because it's something that I know I've heard from coworkers and colleagues and friends. At this time, in the age of COVID, we have women who are expecting, we have women who are expecting children, and there have been a lot of different policies and practices put in place in different states that either you can or you cannot have a support person with you in the delivery room, what checkups even look like when you go for your appointments. And so in the chat, along with the question I'm going to ask, she has a 5-year-old, and she's so worried that she won't be able to have her daughter and her soon-to-be son bond in the hospital before they come home together. And she's also concerned about her spouse being in there when she's giving birth. Like, what can she do? What advice do we have for expecting moms when it comes to their birthing plan? And also in helping to alleviate some of that stress, because stress when you are expecting is so important to keep down. Anna, I know this is your expertise area, and I really want to come to you for that.
Yeah, so I think that this time is very scary for birth professionals, for expectant moms and expectant families. And I think that the advice that I have is the same advice that I would have if we weren't in the midst of a public health crisis. And that is, be communicative and very clear with your practitioners about what you want, what you expect, so that you can get a clear understanding of what's possible and what's not possible, right? So there are a number of advocacy groups just here in Maryland that are working to make sure that support remains available to mothers in the hospitals. So know that we are still working very hard and advocating to make sure that mothers are taken care of. But also understanding that that doctor and that medical structure, whether it's right or not, has the say, unfortunately. And so being armed with information, being armed with prior, have conversations, writing it down, presenting it to your doctor, saying, these are my concerns, this is how I feel, this is what we are planning on doing, how does this fit with the current policies? And because knowledge is definitely power, and you can, and if there's something that's coming up as far as a policy, you can definitely reach out to the advocacy organizations. I'm a part of REAM, which is the Reproductive Health Equity Alliance of Maryland, and we are compiling a list of hospitals and situations in which families are being kept apart. So you can reach out to REAM and let us know about those things, but also making sure that you know what's coming down the pipe. And writing that down and having it documented. I would say something that Mom Cares is doing right now is we have an inventory of recorders that we generally give to mothers in the NICU when they have to leave their babies, right? So if you could get your hands on a digital recorder and record something in the hospital and take it home to sibling to start that process. Like, we have to be very inventive, and we have to be flexible in how we respond to this. And we are not victims. 400 years in this country where we have been under attack for all of those years, and you're still here and thriving, says that we are not victims. Says that we are people who can rise to the occasion and make things work, whether it is the ideal situation or not. I will also say it's okay to grieve. It's okay to grieve the fact that you can't have a baby shower right now. It's okay to grieve the fact that you might not be able to have that water birth that you're looking for. Also, home birth is becoming increasingly more popular option. And so looking into talking to your doctors, talking to your health professionals, finding a midwife and seeing if that's an option for you, given your specific health condition and your pregnancy.
Thank you so much, Anna. Talked about having like groups and spaces where you can go. Bond will be hosting weekly open services for the community to be able to come to, so that we can come together and talk about things that's necessary. And so for Bond, it would be for girls in grades 5 and up, and moms who have daughters in grades 5 and up. And I know Mom Cares deals with, you can talk a little bit more about like the age groups that you all work with.
Yeah, I was also going to say that there are also a number of doulas and birth professionals that are providing virtual support, Mom Cares being one of them. And so we have virtual postpartum support. You can sign up and say, hey, I want a check-in with a doula once a week. I want to talk with the doula about birth planning or whatever, and we can connect you with someone who can call you and participate in that way. We also have healing circles that, when we were able to go outside, were happening the last Friday of the month. We are looking to ramp that up to a more frequent opportunity, and that is moms of all ages, makes and sizes, with all types of children, just coming to the table and talking about the ways that they are in need of self-care and the ways that they have found to help take care of themselves.
And like Mom Cares does great work, and wanted to make sure that they were brought to the broader community. You work with a middle school girl and their mom, and we specifically work on relationship building. And so everything that we do is 2-generation moms and daughters at the same time. And you want that space where you can go and you can have that tea and talk about what you need to talk about on your own. Definitely go to Mom Cares. Like, this is a collaborative community, and we want to make sure that everybody has access to different spaces to meet their needs. Thanks, y'all, for joining us. This was a lively chat. I really, really, really enjoyed talking with you all. This has been so much fun. I think I've had a little bit too much fun with the technology. But it's our goal at Bond to do this at least once a week and bring moms of different ages, phases, and stages together to share thoughts, to be a part of a community. Thanks everyone for putting something in the chat, a question, a thought, a concern, for tagging somebody to come and check it out. I saw a lot of thank yous, a lot of this was so helpful when I tuned in at just the right time. And so we'll be doing this again next week, and you can look for us to go live, and we'll be bringing some more folks on to talk possibly about being a mompreneur in this age, what that looks like, working on the front lines, and what that looks like as a mom as well. And so thanks y'all for joining, and we'll see